Is your phone secure? In Ontario, police are using spyware to monitor people and solve crimes, and they're going to extraordinary lengths to keep everything about it a secret. Potentially the exact same tools have been used to spy on journalists, activists, and political dissidents around the world. So what is this technology? Who is providing it? And why is it such a secret? In the last 2 years, this tech has been used to solve a number of high-profile crimes. On-device investigative tools, or ODITs, as Ontario police call them, are essentially spyware. Once they're installed on a user's device, they can see everything. They can read private messages, crawl a user's apps for data, monitor their key presses, even remotely activate the camera and microphone, all without a user ever knowing it's there. In April 2024, Ontario police arrested 9 people and seized more than $2 million in drugs, cash, and guns, following a long investigation that spanned several police agencies. The bust disrupted an international drug smuggling ring. In 2023, Windsor police made 23 arrests and recovered more than $9 million in stolen vehicles, taking down an international auto theft ring. Both of these investigations had stalled. Despite wiretaps, secret recording devices, search warrants, and surveillance, police couldn't get the crucial piece of evidence they needed to make arrests, until they were given a warrant for an ODIT, after which a number of arrests were made within just a few months. But that's not the end of the story, because something surprising is happening when these cases go to court. In some cases, the Crown has indicated that it would rather drop the prosecution entirely than reveal any information about the ODIT that was used to collect crucial evidence in the case. In the case of Project Fairfield, police and the Crown had already agreed ahead of time that they would drop the prosecution if the court ordered them to disclose the identity of the ODIT vendor. Why might that be? The official reason is the one that the police have been giving basically verbatim for over a decade. All the way back in 2014, the OPP bought a Stingray, basically an earlier version of this tool. It's a physical device that can intercept and reroute texts and calls by posing as a cell phone tower. They acquired this tool for $2 million, but by 2017 had stopped using it entirely and pivoted to similar but less invasive methods, without ever addressing what happened to the Stingray. When pressed for transparency and accountability, a spokesperson said, "Revealing specifics could jeopardize investigations, ongoing court proceedings, and impact public and officer safety." Which is true to some extent. Secret police investigation tools become less useful if criminals know what they are and how they work. In the case of the ODITs, the Crown argued if disclosure, quote, results in the police no longer having access to an effective technological tool that allows it to intercept communications, then that will have a profound impact on public safety and the ability of the police to do their job. Essentially the same argument. But when it comes to ODITs, it's a lot more complicated. ODITs in Ontario are managed by the JTAC, the Joint Technical Assistance Centre, which is a unit that compiles resources from multiple police agencies and receives funding from the province. The JTAC has a contract with a private vendor and makes the Crown and local police services sign agreements that they will potentially drop prosecutions rather than reveal the name of the company. So who is this company? We don't know for sure, but we can make some informed guesses. In 2018, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and Ehud Schneerson, former commander of Unit 8200, an Israeli cyber warfare unit that are known for a pager attack that killed 12 people and injured thousands, started a company called Paragon Solutions. Paragon has a product called Graphite, which is an ODIT. Another Israeli company, NSO Group, has a similar tool called Pegasus. Pegasus is known around the world for being used by authoritarian governments to target activists, journalists, and dissidents, as well as to spy on other countries. In fact, Pegasus was used to track journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who was murdered by Saudi Arabia in 2018. Paragon has tried to set itself apart by insisting that they would only sell to governments who, quote, abide by international norms and respect fundamental rights and freedoms, and that, quote, authoritarian or non-democratic regimes would never be customers. Basically, we're not like other spyware. We are only used ethically, which is a nice thought. Although these tools are extremely hard to detect on a device, they do leave traces. In 2024, the Citizen Lab identified a server and IP address that belonged to Paragon, and were able to map out the online infrastructure that allowed them to trace Graphite's deployment in different locations around the world, including Australia, Denmark, Israel, Cyprus, Singapore, and Canada. One of the connected IPs matched that of the Ontario Provincial Police Headquarters, with all of the other Canadian IPs being in Ontario. Although not definitive, this evidence strongly suggests that the OPP are a Paragon customer, and that Graphite is the or one of the ODITs used by the police. Which is good, right? Paragon is the good one, the ethical one. Of course, it's not that simple. In January 2025, WhatsApp informed 90 accounts in various countries that they believed they were targeted with Graphite through a no-click exploit. Essentially, users were added to a group chat, which automatically sends a PDF. Without even opening the PDF, users' devices automatically parse it, which loads Graphite onto the device. This didn't happen to criminals under investigation, but journalists critical of the Italian government and members of civil society who worked in organizations that rescue refugees and migrants at sea. WhatsApp themselves confirmed evidence that this was an attack carried out using Graphite, targeting journalists and members of civil society. Italy is a democracy. It abides by international norms and respects human rights. Yet the evidence suggests the Italian government used Paragon against journalists and activists, which reveals something quite simple. You can't abuse-proof government-deployed spyware. Which brings us back to Ontario. Luckily, there is currently no evidence to suggest that ODITs are being used anywhere in Canada to survey citizens who are not credibly suspected of a crime. In fact, ODIT use is quite rare. The RCMP and OPP have confirmed that ODITs were used in 37 investigations between 2017 and 2022, but say they've only been used in 3 cases since. In addition to being used in special circumstances, they're also expensive, costing about $500,000 per device. But the same cannot be said of other similar democracies. Amnesty International has stated that Europe is experiencing a spyware crisis. In the United States, ICE is using Graphite as part of the Trump administration's mass deportation campaign. Cybersecurity experts have pointed out the irony in all of this. Governments in democratic countries are investing in the insecurity of our phones and everyday devices, rather than contributing to closing those vulnerabilities. Which may be part of why Ontario is so reticent to disclose their ODIT vendor, because they want to keep that vulnerability open. Amnesty International has a tool that checks your phone for spyware. There are third-party operating systems you can install on your phone to protect against this sort of thing being installed in the first place. If the tool being used becomes public knowledge, it's much easier to protect against. The other part is the reputation of these tools. There is no major ODIT which is not linked to a government spying on its own citizens, or worse. If Ontario is using Pegasus, for example, it would be a PR disaster. Ontario spying on its own citizens with a software that was used to help a dictator murder a journalist. But the problem of secrecy with a tool like this is big. The police are asking the public to trust them, that they're only spying on criminals. But they can't tell us anything about the tool they're using, who provides it, how it works, who gets data from it, or why the vendor is such a secret. They're asking us to trust them that they aren't using it in the way that America or much of Europe is using it, to spy on citizens who haven't committed a crime. That may very well be true, but asking the public to trust you that you're only using your secret spying tool ethically is a big ask. All of this took place before the federal government passed Bill C-22, which gives law enforcement more access to a user's location and activity online or on their cell phones. But here's the thing. These tools work. They solve crimes that likely couldn't be solved otherwise. Big crimes too, organized crime rings and smuggling operations. Which really is the fundamental question when it comes to surveillance and safety. Is it worth it? That's a question you have to answer for yourself. But ODITs are tempting, not just for law enforcement, but for government. If, or maybe when, that seal is broken and these tools go outside of specific applications in law enforcement, there's no going back. all of us will have to adjust to a world where we are increasingly surveyed as we try to ride the fine line between safety and spying. In the case of Ontario's use of ODITs, it would be nice to know who exactly is watching us. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this sort of content, please like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, a special thanks to everyone over at Patreon. If you want to support independent Canadian content like this, you can do so over there. The link is in the description. Thanks.